Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Lay, here with my co-host, Matty B. Go to southboundsports.com, get the full version of the show. We were talking again about intermittent fasting. And so just keeping with that, my main thing that I'm trying to do right now is drink more water because I really don't have anything for high tempo. And because it's allergy season down here and it's bad. But I'd like to go outside. I'm hoping that the weather clears up. It got cold again. And I wanted to try to go if they're doing like a spring game. But I noticed for spring games, they're not publicizing them anymore. I think the only one that I saw that was going to be on regular television is Colorado's with your boy Deion Sanders, right?
I'm not surprised.
Because like before, I feel like it was always like a highlight of like whoever they had top. Like sometimes it would be like Michigan, it might be Ohio State, Florida. I feel like I've seen Georgia, Alabama, maybe Texas, USC, Florida State when like Jameis was there. I feel like ESPN used to kind of highlight some of those teams, you know? And then recently, it's been like they're only shoved onto their conference network, which maybe is good. We talk about it, but like I wouldn't look at the TV guide and say like, well, the only games on right now, only spring game is Colorado. Let me sign up to the Pac-12 network. That would never happen. Like I would never just sign up for one league's thing just because they have random sports on. But I would like to see more things like that if you do subscribe, right? Like if you get the Big Ten Network and you're paying for the app, everything should be on there. That's my stance, and I hope that they go with it. But have you been keeping up with any spring football stuff?
I've been trying to see when some of those practices and stuff are starting because a lot of them, I remember like a lot of the games, they're not until mid-April. So, I mean, that might be why you're not seeing as much advertisement for them because a lot of them aren't going to be out there until later in the spring.
Well, Matt, let me just inform you. I'm pretty sure they start this weekend. I've been itching for them. Some of them, let's see here. Some of them had just practices that were live, maybe inside February. Let's see. All the Big Ten ones are all in April, which I know. I figured that. BYU's is in March. Which ones? I thought the Army and Navy ones were this week. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see. Of course, they don't have it on here. They only have. Did they even have the Big 12? Yeah, they do. So I guess it's the smaller conferences right now that are doing theirs. Of course, they're probably not going to be on TV. But like I said, I'm not going to subscribe to like what is a Conference USA to see them play. But I would be curious because I thought Navy was one of them. And didn't they fire their coach?
They did.
So like that would be something I would check out.
But they hired their defensive coordinator, and they brought in a coach that's still going to run basically the same thing. So like they fired Niumatalolo to change nothing.
Okay, here we go. This is the ones. It looks like they started in March 3rd with Hawaii. But, of course, it wasn't on TV. Missouri's this weekend, so maybe it's not Navy. Where the hell did I think Navy was on here? Oh, they're Friday, April 14th. Maybe they updated it because it says TBA now. What's today? Oh, no, I guess last week was Georgia State, New Mexico, and Bowling Green. This week it looks like it might just be Missouri, who's their coach? That they'd be having a spring game so early. They're like, let's just get this over with. No hype for the season, you know.
Was that Bobby Petrino?
Is it?
I think it might have been, and then he went to... Where did he go?
Oh, it's Drinkwitz or whatever. The guy from App State. Is that where he's from? Yeah, they hired the guy from App State. He's been there for a couple years now. He hasn't been doing good, though.
He was at Missouri State, and I think he just went... Did he just go to Texas A&M?
Who, Petrino?
Yeah, yes.
I'm going to look that up. Yeah, he's with the yeah, they remember. I think I seen that picture of Jimbo and him riding the motorcycle together.
Yeah.
Two guys, no off-the-field issues, perfect, upstanding citizens. People would just come play for them. They definitely don't have to pay for recruits or anything, right?
Makes sense.
I'm looking through the rest. So that one is on ESPN Plus, Matt, if you're bored this weekend. Michigan's going to be on Big Ten Network. That's Saturday, April 1st. And then the other ones are on April 8th, which NC State's on the ACC Network. I'm going to try to go to it if it's nice out. So we'll see how that goes. And then a lot of them are later on. But once you get into NFL draft territory, I feel like no one cares about the spring football games. But you want to hit on high tempo, and then we'll keep going?
Yeah, just surprising as we look at some of the start of the NFL free agency, that you have the Lamar Jackson, what I feel like is a new saga starting, and he doesn't have an agent from what I've been trying to read up, that he's been trying to negotiate with Baltimore on his own. He's missed a pile of games in each of the last couple seasons, and I think he just kept kind of betting against the market. And then when Deshaun Watson got approved for his mega contract that was guaranteed, he felt like he should get even more money. And I think the argument with that is that I understand playing to your value, but at the same time, you don't have any leverage right now. So it's just like, hey, I'm here. You should pay me more. There's not anything that he's bringing to the table that is going to force them to give up more money. So the best case scenario is play out his contract, hope that he puts the numbers up that then somebody wants to pay him down the road. But the last 2 years, other quarterbacks have gotten bigger deals, better deals, and just he's been left behind.
So Deshaun Watson's contract, they just restructured it to give him more of a signing bonus or whatever to get underneath the contract thing. I don't know how many times they can do that, though, because they pushed it back to the point where in 2024 he's going to be owed $45 million a year. Can they keep pushing that to the signing bonus?
Yeah, Ben Roethlisberger restructured his contract every year the last 10 years of his contract.
Yeah, but I thought he took a cut. Deshaun Watson's is guaranteed. What would it make him want to take a cut? He could be like Bobby Bonilla, man. Just keep collecting. He's just there at the Browns camp. Can't get rid of him unless they trade him to cut some of that stuff. But with Lamar, people were saying that his contract was $200 million guaranteed. Lamar said that it wasn't guaranteed, which I think his would have been slightly better than Deshaun Watson's, or was his a 5-year too? No, his was a 5-year. So Deshaun Watson's was guaranteed $230. So you're getting the whole thing guaranteed. Lamar Jackson said that his was only $130 guaranteed, or something like that, and the rest was kind of not guaranteed, so they could have cut him, which makes sense because they want to gamble. The Ravens are going to pay him more early, thinking that if he gets hurt or whatever, we're not going to have guaranteed for that many years. Deshaun Watson, has he really been hurt?
He's just been out of the league.
Yeah, but he takes care of himself, man. He's always staying loose, getting massaged down.
You're such an idiot.
Why would they ever worry about him getting injured if he's so focused on taking care of his body? 33 different masseuses, Matt? That's ridiculous, right? How many people can say that they've had that much time spent on their body staying limber?
Maybe he's too limber, huh?
So Lamar getting hurt, there's no reason for them, like you said, to push the contract. But I am curious because as I focus on him, I'm also worried about my man Tom Brady. I'm in the stages of denial right now, Matt. I don't think he's retired. but I'm getting worried that it's going to hit. Come football season, I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to have you pick me up because I'm looking around watching the signings for quarterbacks, and the 49ers signed Sam Darnold for some reason. And it's like, okay, that's a weird move, right? If you're bringing in Tom Brady. Unless you're bringing in Tom Brady and you're hoping that maybe Sam can learn under him. But they only signed him for 1 year, so it's like, well, that's not really making sense either. Garoppolo goes to the Raiders. Would the Raiders really sign Garoppolo for 3 years? $72 million, if they were bringing in Tom Brady? Could you imagine if they brought Tom Brady in and Jimmy G was his backup again? Wouldn't that be a weird move?
That'd be a great move. He'd already be used to being the backup.
So I think that's out. Because you're not going to spend that much money on 2 quarterbacks. And then what was their team? Miami. Now they signed Mike White for a lesser deal. And to me, that move makes it seem like Tom Brady could go to the Dolphins. And the reason I'm looking more for that is because the Niners now have Trey Lance, which they haven't moved. So you have Lance, and then they also signed Sam Darnold. But then when's Purdy coming back? He might not make it back for the beginning of the year, right? I forget what his elbow thing was. Wasn't it like a weird ligaments shattering or something, separated?
I think.
So, to me, if you can kind of keep him on the IR, you bring in Tom, I don't think that they're totally done just because of that injury. If he wouldn't be injured, or if it was like a ankle or something where they could be fully healed by the beginning of the year, and you have 3 quarterbacks battling, I would say there's no way they're going to bring Tom Brady into that mix. But maybe they're thinking Tom Brady, Trey Lance as the backup, and then bringing Sam Darnold as the veteran, just in case guy for 1 year, $4 million. That's pretty cheap, right? The Steelers kind of did that with Haskins for a bit, right? So I don't know. Those situations, it's just weird that every team that we talked about for Tom Brady goes out and makes a move for a quarterback immediately. And here I am just sitting around waiting. Come on, Tom. He is still listed on the list.
Well, I'm surprised that Atlanta signed Hinkie away from Washington.
But who'd Washington bring in? Didn't they bring a quarterback in?
Well, that was a weird situation because they just kind of declared that they were going with their quarterback from last year that they drafted, the North Carolina guy.
Oh yeah, and they got rid of
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, they're going with Sam Howell, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they got rid of Carson Wentz. That's what I was looking for.
And it's just Hinkie's been the consistent quarterback that has won games for them. But it's because he doesn't have this top number 1 draft pick pedigree. They refuse to let him just be the quarterback. It's no, we have to draft the first quarterback overall, and that will be our quarterback.
Could you imagine if the Patriots did that with Tom Brady? Look, we know you won us a Super Bowl, but you're done. You have a 6th round pick with you, buddy. You can't stay here forever.
We're gonna trade you out. We have Drew Bledsoe.
They could have easily done that, right? But maybe that's why some franchises are just garbage. I don't know. Looking through the list here, Mason Rudolph's Steelers aren't going to sign him, are they?
After they may bring him back later.
Because looking through the list here, Dallas had Cooper Rush. Remember when that was a thing? Do they stick with him? I'm surprised no one's making a move for him. What was the other move? Andy Dalton went to Carolina. I didn't like the coaching hire there. And then they're bringing in Andy Dalton anyway. So it's are you trying to be a 6-win team? What is your move here, guys?
Well, I think that's I felt like they were moving in a positive direction, and I feel like the Raiders are doing bizarre moves again. Like, they traded their tight end Darren Waller to the Giants. They signed Devontae Adams last offseason. It seemed like he had good chemistry with Carr, and it's like, no, we're gonna get rid of Carr, and now like completely leave him high and dry.
And Carr's with New Orleans now, and so I feel like this year more than any other year, we're seeing a shift of like not top quarterbacks, of course, but like mid-tier quarterbacks, where they're all kind of just trading teams. And it's going to be interesting to see how that pays off. Because, like, Garoppolo very well, I mean, I would think he's better than Carr, right? They're the same age. Garoppolo's a little bit younger by 6 months, it looks like. If they wrote that in months and not some weird, like, decimal thing here. I don't know how this site's set up, but to me, that's like, I think that'd be a good move, right? Garoppolo's been close to winning a Super Bowl. Carr's been close to making the playoffs. He's going to be 32. So at that point, they dug their grave by not bringing back the coach and making a run last year. Try something new. The big move we have on here, which I didn't bring up yet, Aaron Rodgers finally out of Green Bay. And I couldn't be more excited. And a lot of people are like the opposite, where they're thinking, oh, Green Bay, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, like now Green Bay is going to suck. But it's kind of like with Aaron Rodgers, you knew what you were getting, and it wasn't a Super Bowl. It was almost like the early Peyton Manning years, where it's like, yeah, we know he might be in the MVP running, but like really, who cares about a player on their team winning the MVP? Like, if one of your favorite teams had a guy win the MVP, would you, like, buy an MVP shirt? Like, no. You don't care about that. I barely care about anything regarding the players on the team. If they're not entertaining me or doing something funny like Antonio Brown, I really don't care about them. That's just basically their job, you know? Just help the team win. If you're up there making mistakes or whatever, and they're paying you, of course you're going to get cut. Aaron Rodgers, man. He comes into the Jets and he's talking about how he wants good locker room players, and he's listing all these Packers. And I'm thinking, are the Jets going to become the Packers from 2 years ago, where they played San Francisco in the playoffs and scored like 10 points or whatever? Like, is that what they're going to be? Because like that San Francisco team was in Green Bay. It was right there for the taking. The Packers could have won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And instead, they can't score a point on offense. And Aaron Rodgers is like, yeah, look at me. And then Devontae Adams leaves and everything. And it's like, all right, well what did you think was going to happen, man? You have a guy, you're not even scoring any points. Of course he's going to want to leave. Now he's like, oh, I really need Alan Lazard in New York. It's like, all right, take him. What's Lazard doing lately? When have you ever been like on fantasy like, oh, hell, I can't believe Alan Lazard's not taken. Like, no, he's probably there in your free agency because no one wants him. He's always like, well, my guy got hurt. Let's take a flyer on Alan Lazard to see if he scores a touchdown this week. That's the kind of player he is. He's not a great guy that you need because the Jets made a move for him too. And nothing against them.
But it's also, you have to take into consideration that they have like one of the youngest, most talented receiving core, and it's like, let me bring in my old friends. Yeah, you young whippersnappers get on the bench. He's
like, Mercedes Lewis, you breaking that Julio Franco record of playing till you're 50? He's like, come on over, one more year, man. Like, we're best buds. And it's like, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, he is like naming all these old Packer guys that last year he was complaining about not having any guys that could get open. Remember that? But this year with the Jets, he's like, nah, I need those guys back. It's like, what are you talking about? When you were 3 wins, you were saying about how no one could get open and how the offense was pathetic. And now he's meeting back up with that guy from the Redskins or whatever, Nathaniel or whatever. I'm like,
Nathaniel Hackett that got fired from Denver.
Was that where he was? I thought he was with the Redskins. It's like, all right, take him. New York. Like, I know what's going to happen here. The AFC is brutal right now. I text you this because with Lamar Jackson, if he's looking for anywhere and the Baltimore won't give him a deal, sign with any NFC team. What NFC team has a solid quarterback now? It's Hurts and then Derek Carr.
And I
the Saints,
honestly think Hurts is good, but you look at teams are starting to pick off some of those defensive players from the Eagles. I mean, I think they lost 3 starters already so far.
But Matt, if you're the guy in a bum league, like consider it to like college, like TCU. Everyone's saying how they were a flash in the pan last year, like their Super Bowl was beating Michigan or whatever. Everyone's leaving the Big 12, Oklahoma and Texas. Those are the 2 schools that out-recruited them. What's stopping TCU from just becoming the team, right? They can sell recruits saying we made the playoffs. Eagles can sell people, and like Jalen Hurts, like, hey, there's no other quarterbacks around our conference that you should be afraid of. They're all garbage. You should be the best guy. And we just went to the Super Bowl. We're going to be back. I think they can sell young guys on that and getting free agents. Like, yeah, they're losing some good defensive players or whatever. But when you're the quarterback, you have to take that next step and grow. You can't fall off because otherwise you'll be trying to get back to the Super Bowl forever like Dan Marino, right? So now with the Eagles, though, it's like perfect. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, go to the AFC. Who's there? Oh, just Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen can't even win anything. How's Aaron Rodgers going to come in and win something with his old buddies, right? He couldn't even win the NFC. He couldn't win the NFC, Matt. He was supposed to be the best quarterback in the NFC. He couldn't win it. He went to what? 1 Super Bowl? Did he make 2? I think he only made 1, right?
Yeah.
Now I have to look that up. I just don't understand, like, when teams are coming in or even like the free agents, like it's pretty clear that some of the other teams, like they're not going to care about Aaron Rodgers making it. Like, hey, yeah, now you're in the AFC. Awesome. Like, no, they made it to 1 Super Bowl with him in 2010. He couldn't win the NFC. Hell, Eli Manning won it twice. Right? What other great NFC quarterbacks were there? Tom Brady came into the NFC and immediately won it. Didn't he? Was that his first year he won the Super Bowl?
But maybe that's the model that Aaron Rodgers is looking. He's like, well, Brady went to Tampa and then he got all his friends there, so maybe I just need to go to the AFC and bring all my friends in.
Yeah, but Tom Brady was winning Super Bowls with those same friends. Aaron Rodgers' friends were doing nothing. They were like on the waiver wire for free agency in fantasy football. That's how good they were. They weren't even like doing cool things like Antonio Brown. So I don't get it. I'm looking at the other teams like Sam Darnold. He's probably like, oh my God, this is going to be perfect for me. I finally keep getting chances in the NFC. Nothing's happening. There's no other big time quarterbacks there. I mean, that's probably why some of the other guys like Derek Carr, like with the Saints, I talked about it, him and Jameis, like they could be the 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFC on the same team, right?
They could.
I'm going to look it up and see if someone has a thing, because like I don't see any other way for like some of these teams to kind of come in and just be there. Like they have, this is their list from the NFL or CBS, whatever. They have Aaron Rodgers number 1, Kirk Cousins number 2, and then Matt Stafford. Is Stafford even around still? I thought he retired, didn't he? Or is he still playing?
They're trying to get rid of him.
Yeah, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Wentz, which Wentz isn't there anymore, Winston, Trey Lance. Trey Lance. If Trey Lance is on the list, Matt, you know it's a bad list. He hasn't even played. Daniel Jones. Like, they signed Daniel Jones. Maybe Jared Goff. Like, Jared Goff, is he even good? Like, they had a chance last year and they couldn't even get in. Maybe Geno Smith. I don't know. None of these guys stream like, hey, that's a quarterback. If I had something to do, and it's like, no, well, they're going to put a game on. It's not my team, but so-and-so quarterback's really good, and I gave you a list of those quarterbacks. You would never say, yep, got to tune in. Kirk Cousins is on. That would never happen. No one has ever said that. Nothing against him, but how many bonehead decisions do you have to watch someone make? Even like in their futures list, they have Mahomes, Hurts, Burrow, Josh Allen, and Herbert. They're all from the AFC except for Hurts. So if I'm Hurts, man, I have to be just licking my chops, thinking like everyone was writing him out of the league, and now he's sitting right there.
Well, just wait till Kyler Murray starts completing all that playbook studying he's doing this offseason. He'll be ready to go.
New coach. It'll be perfect for him. Because, like, realistically, I don't want to set the Lions up for more disappointment, but, like, if something happens to Hurts, like, and the Lions have been building with Goff, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions just went to the Super Bowl. Would they win it? No, the AFC is probably going to win it. I think we're going to be at a point where the AFC just starts a run of, like, winning the Super Bowl every year. I would think. But I don't know. I feel like anyone that's in free agency, if I'm looking at a team, I don't know why any of these guys like Garoppolo would sign in the AFC. I just don't see it. Like, there's nothing. Like, yeah, at that point, you might as well just say, I'm here for the money. Like Mike White, buddy, you sign with the Dolphins, go to the NFC. You could be the guy. Like, they have to, a lot of these teams have quarterbacks that they need spots for. Like, they need guys to come in and compete, and they haven't been able to do it.
No, but can you really argue the Mike White thing? Like, that's an ideal situation.
The Dolphins?
You're down. Oh my goodness, yeah.
You think Tua plays this year? He was on the list. I just didn't say his name.
But that's why I think that's a great pickup. Like, that would be a great place to be because you have the talent around you, and it's just you're not in a rush to start. Tua's gonna get a concussion. Like, it's a matter of that. When he gets his concussion and he's out for however long, you're stepping right in. As long as you don't completely throw 75 interceptions, you're in great shape. You're in position to just take over the team. And they can be like, well, we got to let Tua go because, I mean, that's his 85th concussion in the last 3 years. We care about player safety, you know?
I'm surprised that they're still letting him play. I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I was heartbroken when my man Steve Young had to step down. And I was still angry. Then I'm like, what a coward. Why would he do that with the concussions? But now it's with Tua, they're not even talking about it. Right? Some of the ESPN talking heads are saying yeah, surprising he's still out there. But from the NFL itself, they're kind of just he's following the protocol. Right? It's yeah. It's almost like people are hey, it takes 6 months to physically recover from a car accident. It's you don't just keep driving recklessly after that happens, man. You'd probably be you know what, I should probably not speed anymore after that first accident. That's kind of where Tua should be. It's maybe I don't need to hit my head. Why don't I just become the coach? You know? That's what my thought would be, is let's take the next step and work towards something else. But I don't know. Anything else you have on the NFL?
No, just I feel like the first couple days, we're only into the second day. It's I feel like there's a flurry of people just being shifted around, and it seems to be people are moving at a faster rate than in years past.
So, I did see the one other thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is probably from a couple weeks ago, where the Eagles were trying to push for the XFL, because I'm talking about the XFL now, where they're trying to get that onside kick, where instead of kicking an onside kick, they want the option to go for the 4th and 15, I think it is.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if it's going to be something that other teams want. Are the Eagles the only team that's kind of forward thinking enough to push the boundaries? And that's why I'm kind of not afraid of the Eagles losing people. It feels like they're the organizations right now is a step ahead. And so if they can like keep innovating, they're probably going to win a Super Bowl. Not that I like the Eagles or anything, but they've been trying to do this for like 2 years ago now, where it only happens if you're trailing in the game, and you can use it twice as like a coaching challenge type deal, which I think would be a fair thing, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of games now, they're such blowouts. Because even the XFL, the Roughnecks, your team, like, they're undefeated, and the Defenders, my team, are undefeated. The rest of the teams are, like, crappy.
Did you see that they completed the first ever double pass?
Who did?
The Roughnecks?
No, I didn't see that.
So they ran a shallow crossing route, but like they ran it so that it was like still behind the line of scrimmage, and the quarterback threw it so it looked like they just threw like a little dump pass to the flat, but the receiver was still able to catch the pass and then throw it downfield again. So he caught it, and the corner bit and threw it over his head. There was no one around him for 30 yards.
See, that's the kind of stuff that TCU was doing last year against Michigan. Like their crossing routes were so long that the guy would break it back behind the line of scrimmage so that then the lineman could get downfield and block. And I thought, like, that's a pretty good thing. But you have to kind of have an aggressive D line and be able to like kind of roll out and have that mobility in your quarterback. So like applying some of that to the NFL, I think is going to be a little bit tougher, right? Because you run it like one time and then they're going to kind of know of like, yeah, that's not going to happen again. We'll just sit back and crush your guy.
I mean, but I think that also has to be built in, that you got to have a team that's throwing those underneath passes. Like the Steelers would be great at it because they throw so many like little bubble screens and different stuff that they just throw it and then fire it down the field.
Are you saying you're a fan of the Pittsburgh offense? Because I know a lot of Pittsburgh media hates Canada.
They had success with it.
I'm not saying either way. I think a lot of it just depends on the quarterback. Like
I thought it was shitty when Canada left Pitt after a year to go to LSU, and clearly that didn't pay off because he bounced from there to Maryland to the Steelers. And I think had he had more time to develop his offense a little bit more at Pitt, you know, who knows what other opportunities there would have been for him. But I think like he jumped the gun, and then he was definitely handcuffed at LSU with Ogeron, and I don't know how much of his game is being handcuffed with the Steelers right now, or like what is his authentic stuff versus what's Tomlin saying, don't do that. We need to run this type of stuff.
And that's where I wonder if it's just the personnel. Because, like, how are you going to run your stuff if the personnel isn't able, like, the line is not able to block, and you're not able to run some of that West Coast type stuff or whatever he's trying to do? And then you're just kind of stuck. Do you just run your stuff because it's the NFL and you can just keep forcing it? Or I'm sure you put in slight wrinkles each week because that is, like, your entire job. But I don't know. The XFL, I was worried about it whenever it went to like just cable. And now it's like getting to the point where I don't think they're in trouble of not finishing the season, right? I see a lot of people putting bets on like, hey, they're done. Some of their games are moving to like ESPN. And like this Saturday, the Defenders are on ESPN Plus. But it's also on FX. So like, can you watch it on ESPN Plus? Because like some of the games you can't, like the Roughnecks and Sea Dragons, if that's on ESPN, you have to have a cable. And that's where I think they really missed a boat of just trying to have all their games on one streaming network. Even if it was like something like Twitter. Remember when Twitter tried to do some of like their streaming or whatever back? I don't even know what the hell it would have been back then. Periscope or something maybe. But like they try to stream college football games, maybe the Pac-12, and it's like, yeah, that could work, but you have to put all the games on there. You can't pick one a week. People won't know. And even when they did it, it was kind of buried. And Facebook tries to do it too with some of their stuff. And it's like, if you want to have the games on there, people will watch it, but they just need to know consistently that that's how they can watch it. With Facebook, I don't think Twitter has it either. Like, there's no app on the TV to like actually watch a stream. I think Facebook has one on like the Xbox or whatever, and it's garbage. There's no like delay to like let it buffer. It just constantly buffers the entire time. So it's like, all right, Facebook, I'll just remove this Facebook Watch or whatever. So if a team, like local teams I know, have used it to stream, and it's like, you might as well just stream on YouTube at this point, because Facebook is that bad. And at least YouTube has a TV app that you can do it. So I'm surprised like some conference doesn't just say like, let's just stream on YouTube proper. They already support it for how many countless people, right? I think news has some stuff that's streamed on YouTube Live. Just do like Pac-12 on there. I'm sure YouTube would give them a deal. Probably not the millions up front that they want. I think that's the difference. They don't. I think a lot of these conferences and stuff, they're afraid of doing it the opposite way, where like you hear about these YouTubers make like millions of dollars on ads. They don't know how much they're actually going to make. It depends on how many people are watching. So like if Pac-12 says, hey, yeah, we're going to sign a deal with YouTube. YouTube's going to pay us like $5 million up front or something pretty low. And the rest, people actually have to watch their games, you know? Because like if they get paid like the Big Ten right now, and they're trying to get that money up front, it doesn't matter if people don't watch, and that's why they're in the situation that they're in. Because people didn't watch. The XFL, no one watches. So how are you going to do it next year? Because they're not going to give you a better deal if the ratings aren't there. And so this is an all-time low, which is why I brought it up. So it's a new rating low for the XFL. They're bringing in an average of 500,000 viewers, which week 3 it was like 571,000. So it's down a good bit. And the other games on like the other networks are only averaging 300,000 people. The main ESPN game is like boosting it up that much more. But if you're ESPN, I don't know if that's worth it. Do they normally get 1 million people watching their channel? I don't know. I see like numbers from CNN is like getting like 1 million. And it's like, maybe that's good for a minor league football team, right?
But some of those CNN numbers, I think, would have to be inflated because they just show it like round the clock at airports and stuff.
Well, that's
like
why
that.
I compared to that, because ESPN would be the same with bars. How many bars are you at that just have ESPN on? Show poker or something at noon. and then it's always like, hey, yeah, I'm going in at lunch and I want to watch the NCAA tournament. And then like no, we watch ESPN here. It's like, buddy, no, put on CBS. Come on. No one's watching bowling at this hour. It's like, no, we have a deal with ESPN. We have to have it on our bar, which I'm sure they probably do. But who knows if it's like a sports bar or something. But that's my thing here. It's like the XFL, if they really want to do a minor football league, you have to kind of do like the arena football where it lasted for so long because they were just doing their own thing. They weren't trying to live the college football and NFL life. But just put it on regular Hulu streaming or something. It's only 4 games a week. It can't be that much work for them to figure something out, right? Do you need 20 cameras for an XFL game? I don't know. Let's get into our last topic, the NCAA tournament bracket. Unfortunately, Michigan couldn't win any game at the end of the game. So they lose in the Big Ten tournament, so they're not in. They're playing the NIT, which they won tonight. And it made me wonder because the talk right now is all about expanding the NCAA tournament. I've seen at least 10 articles on it. And I wonder, like, why are they pushing it? Because for me, my comparison right now, since this is primarily a football podcast, with the expanded college football playoff, the NIT is kind of like the bowl game system, right? And it has me worried that when the playoffs expand, and they expand even more, that the bowl games aren't going to go away. And it's going to incentivize some teams to not care as much, right? And like, I feel like a team, and I'm not trying to slam Rutgers here, but Rutgers right now beats Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. I thought they were going to be in the tournament. Wrong. They're in the NIT, I believe, with Michigan. And everyone was saying, well, if Michigan would have beat them, Michigan might have probably been in the tournament. And it's like, all right, well, Rutgers did beat them. They have virtually the same record. Like, just put Rutgers in then. If Michigan was good enough to get in and they lost to Rutgers, why have one team in and not the other when the resume is almost the same? Like, I really don't get the new tournament resume things where they focus more on, like, top 10 wins or top 50 wins or whatever. But they like throw away the losses to like wherever. Because I kept seeing a comparison between Wisconsin and Michigan. And they both went 1-1 against each other. Michigan's top 50 was like 3-10. And Wisconsin's was like 5-5 or something. And I'm like, and everyone's like, yeah, Wisconsin's way better because of that. And it's like, yeah, but they have an extra loss. They have one more loss than Michigan. Who are they losing to if they're not losing to the top 10 teams? They're losing to shit teams. So if you're losing to shit teams, shouldn't that penalize you more? Like, why don't we just go back to like actual record? Because like before, in the past, and someone's probably going to argue with me in this, but typically if you're in a power conference and you win 20 games, you're pretty basically in, right? And I see teams like NC State this year that had like whatever amount of wins, 20 something wins, and they're on the bubble. And I'm like thinking in the past that never would have happened. Like, have teams scheduled so soft now that they went the totally opposite direction to try to get teams to quit scheduling soft, and they're overinflating Power 5 wins? I don't get it. But now they're like, well, we know what will solve it. It's definitely not going back to the old system that I think was better. It's definitely making it a 96-team tournament. And at that point, it's like, what happens to the NIT? The CBI, which shouldn't even exist anyway. And I'm like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to watch the NIT. Nothing against Michigan. I hope the players have fun, you know? I hope they win. But, like, I've never watched the NIT. I know the ratings can't be good. Will I watch the NCAA tournament? Probably. Do some picks. Should we do some picks this year? That's the one thing. It's like, I think a lot of people watch the opening weekend of the tournament. And if their team's not in it, like, they'll kind of keep a watch, and then they'll kind of watch like the Final Four or whatever. But up until that point, like, the ratings aren't like through the roof stellar, you know? So I don't know why you would expand it even more. And then the one thing with me that gets me is like, you complain about football players playing so many extra games, but why is it okay to just have basketball players who already miss more months out of the year of actual school, right? NBA is a smaller league because there's only 5 dudes that start on a team. So the chances of going pro is even less than college football. Why are you just allowing them to like work for cheap and play basketball basically year round and all these extra games for no reason? I don't get it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It's like, hey, anything in college football, it's always like football sucks. Like, you can't have extra practices, you can't have extra games. It's unfair to the students. They're putting in all this work. And it's like basketball travels a ton more and makes way less money than football. Right? So everyone that's like, yeah, football and basketball are equal. It's like, they're clearly not. Have you not been watching any of the expansion talks? No one is knocking down Duke's door. No one cares about Duke. Duke basketball, great, awesome. How much money they making? Rutgers makes more. That's all you have to know. Who makes more money? Oh, Rutgers makes more than Duke? Oh, I wonder why. It's like, oh no, because they're actually in a big boy football conference. Oh yeah, that makes sense. It's like, okay. Who else makes more? Vanderbilt? They known for their basketball prowess? Nah. So I watch the tournament and I think, does it need to be expanded? No. What do you think?
No, I don't think it needs to be expanded. I mean, there's so many people that, the teams that are fighting to get in, are these bubble teams that I don't see the argument for it in a lot of cases. Like, you have more than enough opportunity with the teams that are getting in and the automatic bids and all the other stuff that, like, you have plenty of opportunity to put your best case forward for why you should be in. And I feel like, when you look at this as a comparative to what college football is doing, if you're in the ACC and you're Florida State and you lose one conference game, you're done. You're not making the playoffs at all. There's zero chance you're going to make it. You look at Michigan, they can still potentially lose to Ohio State, but they better be really, really high, like within that top 2-3, to be able to make sure that they have a chance to get in. And even at that, it's like, well, if we lose, we need to make sure that we're blowing somebody else out by like 1,000, or else the committee's going to like possibly pass on us for a third SEC team. So like, I think there is a little bit with college football where it makes sense to expand, because you still have, like, there's literally no margin of error. Where with the NCAA tournament for basketball, like, you could potentially lose a pile of games and still qualify for the tournament, and all it takes is to get your foot in the door. And the classic case is Duke and North Carolina the last couple of years. I feel like their regular season appearances have not been, like, they're not blowing teams out of the water, but they hit the tournament and it's like, yeah, this is just what we're going to do now. We're just going to take you to the chipper because we've been doing this for the last 40 years.
Well, UNC was a team this year. They beat Michigan, and they were like waiting. I feel like if Michigan would have been able to win a couple games that they lost at the end of the year and make the tournament, UNC probably would have been in, because I think that would have pushed Michigan up to like the quad one or whatever the hell they're calling it to get them in. And it's like, why? If both teams are mediocre, why are they even in? And I probably didn't explain this clearly, but when I'm talking about football, I'm talking about expanding it to a real playoff, not a weird 12 team. I want at least 16 teams with automatic conference bids. There's only 10 conferences. You can easily adapt. And like I said, put a limit at it. That there's a minimum of 8 conferences in college football or whatever, and a maximum of 10. Don't allow other conferences to form. If they want to make mega conferences, great. But if they're doing mega conferences, keep the auto bids, I think, at 8, so that you technically would have basically like a minor and major conference for each region, right? You would still have the Big Ten, and then you would have the MAC or some version of those schools. And then in the Southeast, you would have like the SEC and maybe like the Sun Belt or something. Or I guess that's maybe more Big 12. But like, I think you could do it to where 8 conferences, and then you wouldn't be worried about teams missing out. Like Wake would have a landing spot, or Duke would have a landing spot. But everyone argues against that. They're like, no, we really can't do a 16-team playoff. And it's like, but every other division does it. Why is it so much harder on this bigger level? And everyone's talking about teams that, oh, well, if you expand it even more, it's going to be less competitive. The NCAA basketball tournament's not competitive, right? Think about how many upsets. Everyone always picks 5 and 12, Matt. That's like the limit. 16 versus 1 has happened one time ever. The other ones don't really happen either. So if you expand it even more, those lower seed teams aren't winning. What's the lowest to even win a national championship? I think it's like a 7 or an 8 maybe. So like maybe it was UConn. Maybe it was UConn. Were they like a 10 or an 11 that one year? Maybe I'm thinking wrong. I know Syracuse made a run as like an 11 or something once. But like, if you add more teams, are they going to win the national championship? No. All you're doing is trying to bring in the viewers. So like, I I'm looking at. I was trying to look up the TV numbers, and of course, what I find is the press sheet from Time Warner Cable or whatever, who the hell puts this on, whoever owns TBS, CBS, and TNT and True TV, and they're saying that they average. They didn't just give me a regular average, but they're saying for each window, the NCAA tournament brings in 9.12 million viewers. But you got to remember with the tournament, how many games are on each window? Isn't it like 4? It's at least 2, right? That opening weekend?
I want to say yes.
Because I'm reading at the bottom and it's saying like impressive viewership on like Gonzaga Memphis is 4.37 million people. Some of the higher games, of course, like the Big Ten games get like between 10 and 11 million viewers or whatever. So that's probably bumping the average up. Because like they said the second round game was the highest and most watched of the tournament between Duke and Michigan State. Was this last year's numbers? Yeah. Was 11.22 million viewers, which is pretty good. It's a playoff, right? But that's not Michigan, Ohio State football numbers, right? And that's a rare matchup, I feel like. Duke and Michigan State, that was Coach K's last game versus Tom Izzo. That, to me, I thought they would have been able to at least milk 20 million out of that or so. Right? It's like they're averaging just slightly less than what the NBA Finals does. And this is supposed to be the hottest weekend in sports, right? So expanding it even more is going to dilute it to where I feel like you're getting 9.12 million, but like you brought up with the XFL or CNN or whatever, how many TVs are just on at the bar that have both channels on or 2 channels on, right? I have every game on. Do I count only as 1 viewer? Or are you counting me as 4 viewers, right?
Yeah.
Because I watch all the games if I'm watching it. Because I want to see the upsets or whatever. But this year it's almost like with the NIL stuff and players coming back, maybe it'll draw me in more. I just don't know. It's hard whenever you have a sport like college basketball where how many people actually watch it during the regular season? Pretty much no one. But yet you're adding more games. It's like, who's this for? Gamblers? TV execs? Because at that point, why not just make the tournament double or triple elimination and start it in January? Wouldn't that be way better?
I don't know.
Think of how big the baseball tournament is, right? They do.
But why do we need? If we're going to keep expanding, then does the regular season not matter at all? Because you're just
no, it doesn't because it's a single elimination tournament. So the regular season literally will mean nothing. Michigan played like crap. They're in. They're talking about Ohio State might have even made it. They had a losing record. The NIT used to not even invite people with losing record. And I don't know if they invited Ohio State, but it's like, hey, they ended the season really hot, Matt. Got to put them on the 96 spot. And it's like, okay, well, if Ohio State's getting in, Michigan will never get left out, right? If you're putting in Michigan and Ohio State, you might as well just pencil them in, and then you're never going to leave out Duke and UNC. And to me, that's why it's kind of like, well, we got to make sure our Goodwood boys are taken care of. We don't want them missing out. And it goes back to my argument. It's like, if you don't get rid of the bowl games, what is the incentive for a team like Rodgers to get better? Because they're going to just say, hey, our ceiling is the NCAA tournament. Every year we're in because there's 96 teams taken. We're taking the entire Big Ten no matter what, And so it's like, all right, well, what do we get to do? We get to hang up our banner, our NCAA tournament participation banner, and that's it. You're getting all this extra money. It's like, are you going to make your team better? Like, nah. Like Vanderbilt in football. Are you guys trying to get better? It's like, We're focused on academics here. We don't have time for that football stuff, but we'll collect that paycheck. Just don't hurt our guys out there. It's like, okay, awesome. Great work, guys. That's my thought on this. Expanding it, great. I was going to go down the bracket and kind of give our picks, but I feel like that's always like a boring show, right? If we were doing it on YouTube, maybe, but we're not even like a basketball show, so it's weird to have two dudes picking basketball teams, right?
We might as well take some coins out of a sack and throw them for as much basketball as I've watched this year. I was so disgusted with the way that the suspension went for Florida State that I really didn't even watch much basketball this year because I was too agitated.
I see that, and then I see like Alabama situation, and it's like,
and it's just like, just let it go. It don't matter. Nothing to see here.
Just ignore it. It's cool. No big deal. And then like I look at the tournament, and it's kind of like, all right, who do I even want to win? Do I want Purdue to win? Like that seems to be like one of the trendy picks, and I'm like, the Big Ten sucks. The Big Ten sucks. Remember how I said that last year? And I said, pick everybody that's playing the Big Ten, and your bracket probably would have did pretty well, right? I feel like it's the exact same thing this year, but I really don't know who's the team that could win. Like, is Houston really for real? They don't play in a big conference yet. Next year, I think they'll be in the Big 12. And that'll be a fun year because Texas and Oklahoma will still be there, I think. So that conference schedule has to be a mess. Because, like, what's it going to be, a 16-team conference for a year? Right? Or are they going to be 14? What do they even have in that conference? I guess they only have, 10 teams? So they're out at 4. I guess it would just be a regular conference at that point. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was thinking they were going to have a mega conference, but nah. But everyone's like, yeah, that conference is really good too. So it's like, all right. So every year you're going to put together the ACC, the Big 10, and the Big 12. Their entire conference gets in the tournament because those are the basketball conferences, right? And then the SEC and the Pac-12 will pick the best 10 or so. And then the rest of them are going to be like what? They're not going to pick 5 mid-majors from one conference. They're going to pick 1 or 2 in the expanded playoff. They're just making it harder for a Cinderella to make a run. And then they're going to be 10 years from after that, they're going to say, why is no one watching anymore? It's like, yeah, remember when, was it Loyola Chicago made it was that Sister Jean? That would never happen if you expanded to 96. That run would be to the round of 64 or whatever at that point. And they'll say, hey, whatever happened to the Wichita States or the VCUs? It's like, oh, they're done. It's almost impossible to win 8 games in a row or whatever it would be. Because right now it's 1, 2, 3, 5 games in a row?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's only adding one more round, 6 rounds. I don't know. I didn't do the math. I don't know what the projected bracket's going to be. But when you add all the extra teams, you're just making it at least one time harder. So I don't know. Anything else you have for the tournament?
No.
You're not going to tell people to pick Penn State because that's your local team?
No, I would not.
I'm surprised Penn State even made it. I thought they would do anything. They'd be like, well, if Penn State didn't go on that run in the Big Ten tournament.
Isn't their coach getting a hot spot to be poached for somewhere or something to go somewhere else?
I don't even know if he's a good coach. I thought they were getting ready to fire him. So it's like, hey, Penn State, perfect. And I'm always just wondering what's going to be the thing. Is he going to be the guy that's there forever? I guess he's only been there for, this is his second year. Last year they were 14 and 17. And I thought people were kind of just being he's not going to be the guy. That's what I've heard from Penn State people. And then this year it's they came close. They made the tournament for the first time in forever. And did Pitt make it? Yeah, they're in the playing game, aren't they? I think it's Mississippi State. So, could they play Penn State? Oh, they could. It would have to be an Elite 8 game, so that will never happen. But I think that's what I want to see. That's the only thing I care about. I would love to see a Pitt-Penn State NCAA tournament game. Because if Penn State beat Pitt, and they always talk shit on them in football, could you imagine Pitt losing in basketball too after putting all that resource into making them a basketball school? That would just be hilarious. And honestly, if for Pitt and other ACC schools, I think that's going to be the scariest thing. I think they see teams like Alabama that are clearly capitalizing on the success of their football team and becoming basketball schools too. How are you going to compete if like your thing is basketball? Like if you're Duke and you're like, well, we really can't compete with Bama in football, and then Bama's like, yeah, we're also going to be good at basketball though. And Duke's like, well, like, we still have our academics, baby. All right. You got anything for the final bell?
No, just checking out our numbers. I'm really pleased that people are tuning in, and just thank you for the support.
Yeah. I forgot to mention it, but I talked about college football risk last week. I don't know if it was on the pre-show or not, but Michigan finally won a random game of online fan support, Matt. So way to go, guys. I'm glad we pulled it out. I didn't really do anything other than just play. And someone told me, they're like, why do you care? Like, that has nothing to do with the team. And I'm like, why do you care about, like, the basketball team? You're not making the shot. At least I'm playing in the game of risk, right, Matt? I had a hand in winning. I got 2 MVPs over the course of the game. Not that many, but still pretty damn good, right? It's like, why are you mad at so-and-so for missing a free throw? Are you him? No, you're just a fan, right? So I'm glad that I could help Michigan win in something. And it goes on Wikipedia, Matt. And it's your boys Florida, Ohio State, and then us. So hopefully Michigan can run it back next year or whenever they do it again. But I like that kind of fan support. I think that's what makes college different than like the NFL. Because it's like, where else would random Ohio State fans and Michigan fans not want to see the other team win something so petty as an online game of Risk, Matt? To where the numbers are, it's like funny because like you would think that I would think that the fans on Reddit or whatever would be higher numbers, right? But only like 1,000 people played for Michigan, and that was by far the most team. Like the most played team. Ohio State last year, I think, had like 1,000 or whatever when they won, or I guess it was 2 years ago now at this point. But I'm like, you can get more. You have to have a student section that's bigger than that. So I wonder if other schools will start to pick up on it more, because it does feel like it's growing. And I think just having something where fans can actually do something other than vote for like Heisman Trophy picks that don't matter at all, right? Because they're not going to pick the guy you pick for Heisman. They're going to pick whoever's behind the box. They're going to pick their guy. So hopefully there's more stuff. I think that's definitely what makes college fan bases better than NFL. Like I've never worn like an NFL thing and had someone just come up and start swearing at me. But I have had that happen when I've run into Ohio State fans out at Disney. So that's all on the show. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.